It is noon. My name is Jacqueline Stevens, and I'm joined by Shayla Rexroad. We're excited to see you today, and thank you for sharing your things that we can celebrate. This has not been an easy time, but we need to take a moment to kind of shout out about the things that we've accomplished and the things that we're trying and that we're doing. So again, feel free to add your name, where you're joining us from, your school, and those remote learning accomplishments that you want to share, because we want to celebrate those with you today. We've got a lot to share with you today. As I said, my name is Jacqueline Stevens, and you'll be hearing from Shayla Rexroad as well. We are research scholars from the Friday Institute of Educational Innovation, and that is located on NC State's campus. We too are working from our home offices, and we have been doing these sessions for remote learning supports for about a month now. And when we're not doing that, we're in schools and we're inspiring others through professional development, face-to-face, online courses. And our goal is to educate, innovate, and inspire at the Friday Institute. And it's our pleasure to be partnering with North Carolina's Department of Instruction to share with you this work, best practices, strategies, and anything that can support you during this time in our very sudden leap to remote learning. If you are not familiar with Zoom, very briefly, I'm going to give you the highlights. If you have not found your chat window yet, feel free to go ahead and open that up. It's going to be a lifeline for you to be able to connect with folks. We have a very large group that we anticipate joining us today. We already have over 200 participants in our Zoom session, and we've had 500 register. So that being said, if you are having any audio issues, one of the first things you can do is to turn off your video, which I'm going to go ahead and do now. You could find your video button in your menu. You could turn that off, and that's going to help save some bandwidth. Likewise, if you're continuing to have some audio issues due to the high occupancy in the Zoom session, you can change the audio settings in your down arrow next to your microphone icon, and you can change that from computer to phone, and that's going to save you some bandwidth as well. We want to make sure that you hear everything that we are saying, and you can see we have our closed captions on in order to support that. And at the end of the session, if you're interested in copying the conversation or the chat window that's happened over our hour of time together, you can copy that by clicking on the 3 dots in the field where you are typing your messages, and it will give you the opportunity to make a copy of the text, or excuse me, that chat box. So what is this all about? We've been doing these sessions for a while, but we've figured we needed some ground rules for these sessions to let you know what they're about. And we are encouraging inquiry-based learning together. We know that that supports kind of taking risks, asking questions. We appreciate those open-ended questions, and we know that there's more than one possible answer. We're sharing strategies with you that we hope that you can find use for, that you can implement, but we also encourage you to share your ideas in the chat window as well. And sometimes questions may be asked and not answered. We're going to try to do our best, especially considering the large number of folks that we have joining us today. And as we talk about things, as we're sharing ideas, we are sharing to a wide audience. So we want you to think about what is within your own control, what is most important to you, what are the pieces you feel you can implement and use, and pick and choose accordingly. So as I said, we have been doing these remote learning sessions for quite some time now. This is going to be our 5th session and our, I believe, 9th webinar. And I see in the chat window, Bonnie, if you're having any trouble hearing, you may want to jump out and jump back in. You should be hearing some audio. So Shayla, if you can kind of help her out in the chat, that'd be awesome. We want to make sure everybody can hear what we have to say. This is going to be a fast-paced session because we've got a lot to share, and we figured this would be an excellent time to reflect on the last few months, what we've learned from this experience, but then also give you some a recap of things that we've been sharing over the last few weeks, as well as opportunities for you to go back and check out some of this information. So all of the strategies that we've been sharing, that we'll be sharing today and over the course of this remote learning support project have been linked to our instructional principles for remote teaching and learning. And this was developed by our team at the Friday Institute in cooperation with the Department of Instruction. And if you're interested in more, we've dropped the link there into the chat. We are not going to cover these in depth, but you'll see throughout our session today, there'll be little tabs in the upper right-hand corner, and that is when our content is correlating to these principles in this chart. So our learning goals today. As I said, we've been covering a lot over the last few weeks, and we thought it'd be a great time to just review some best practices, ideas and strategies, and anything that we've found has really been hitting the mark with educators based on the feedback that we've been getting from folks. So we're going to be sharing those with you today, as well as asking you to consider how you can reflect during this time in order to heal and grow both personally and professionally. So we've decided to have some fun with you today. Shayla and I have decided that it would be pretty fun to share with you our top 10 remote learning support tips and strategies. So between Shayla and myself, we have come up with our top 5 in order to create this top 10. And we have thought we'd add a touch of fun by making it a bit of a trivia game for you to get started. So we invite you to do your best. You don't need to share your answers publicly in the chat. There are points associated with each question. Other points mean absolutely nothing, so be sure to keep score, and we hope you win. So to get us started with a bit of fun, here are my top 5. So question to get us started. This is number 5. To you, what is the key in design for the design of your remote learning lessons? Is it A, focusing on content, B, simple lesson design, or C, alignment to standards? Think about what your answer might be. And while all of these are important, the answer I was looking for is B. Right now, simple is key. We've heard of the KISS method, right? I use the KISS method all the time, but I like to call it keep it seriously simple. So what am I talking about when we're talking about simple lesson design in this current situation that we're in? And we're going to share with you some highlights that we have from a past session. Here we can see what if we're in a no tech or low tech situation, right? Oh, and I love that, Carrie. Keep it simple, sweetie. Yes, definitely. How can we as teachers still be present when we are in a situation where we're sending papers home or things for students to work on? The idea of using a QR code to create a very short little mini lesson where maybe you're helping them work through a problem or a concept, anything that you can do to kind of make yourself present, even if it's on paper. A cell phone can scan a QR code if they've got relatively good connectivity or Wi-Fi. So a little bit of tech, but this was an option we found that got a lot of positive feedback from teachers. And even if it is, you know, students do a problem, they scan it and you're working that problem out with them. It's also great if you're working with younger kids for the parents to use, so they're understanding some of that thought process as they're helping their student, their child with their lessons. Likewise, another idea of just keeping it simple is really simple lesson flow. This is a lesson template and design that we found by the fantastic Kristen Zimke. She basically broke it down. She makes these little micro mini lessons, and she uses video a lot, but this can be incorporated into any lesson that you've got going on. So first, it's the teacher. It's on you. Today, I'm going to teach you this. Then it turns into more of a show and tell. Watch me, then I'm going to have you try it. More explanation. Then there's the opportunity for the students to engage, where she says, now you try. And finally, that link, that connection back to the learning goal and the why. And you can see we've added some stars in there. These are great places where you can differentiate and personalize some of that instruction. Now, again, you'll realize I'm going pretty fast because all of these resources are available for you in a much deeper dive, and we're going to share that link with you in just a moment. Likewise, keeping it simple lesson design, we made it even simpler. So here we've got that same kind of model as Kristen shared, but we have the opportunities to really just focus on how are we engaging, what are students doing, and then how are they sharing. So expectations, support, and then of course, demonstration. Yes, I see Alice, right. It's like I, we, and you do. So we're keeping it simple. We're keeping it, and Shayla and I have been calling these little mini lessons, these micro bites of instruction to help guide our students. And lastly, we went and in trying to keep it simple, we created a mini lesson must-haves, right? Engage, do, and share. But then what could that actually look like? And we went forward and we made a kind of a template. We're calling it a mix and match template that you can take and use and modify. And Shayla's going to drop in a link to that template. It's going to be in the PDF of slides that we're going to share with you, most definitely. You can see my red arrow that's pointing to where this bigger document is living on that slide. But thinking about how you as a teacher can pick from option A, B, or C as needed to mix and match your lessons. But then you can even go a step further and use something like this to create a choice board for your students where they have to do number 1, 2, and 3, but the option is up to them. So again, fast-paced, quick, but ideas in order to keep your lessons simple. So we know we want to instruct, we want to modify, we want to offer modification or motivation. We want to target our language to our kids. Those materials are used to extend and enhance. And overall, we want to make sure we've got real clear instructions. So like I said, lots of stuff kind of thrown at you there. But the nice thing is, these are some of our last sessions that we've done that are linked not only with video, but also PDF slides of all the contents with links, with deeper dives, where you can go back and you can check all of that out. So next trivia question, are y'all ready? Here we go. When asked, 80% of learners said this would make them more productive. Is it A, gamification, B, no grades, or C, extended time? So feel free, if you want to add your answers into the chat, you can. It is up to you. Make sure you're keeping score. This is worth 500 not important points. And our answer is gamification. While all of these are motivating to our students, however, we have seen when the announcement came out that there will be no more grades, we saw a lot of motivation drop off from our students and even some of their family members in supporting them. So we know the versatility of gamification for learning, it's enabling us to be used at many various levels of learning, different cognition levels, and we can use it to not only support learning acquisition, but get that higher level of participation, improving performance, and getting some successful application of the work we're asking students to do. So I get asked all the time, you know, oh, gamification, is it just really applying making my content a game? Kind of like what we're doing right now, right? We're playing a game in order to learn. But really, it's more about implementing the elements of a game in order to make your lesson gamified. It's not turning content into a board game or a trivia game or putting it simply into a Kahoot. It's using these elements. So creating challenges, creating a scaffold of levels that students need to reach, instant feedback. Overall, we know that's going to be so motivational no matter what, in helping our students stay motivated and perform. If there's scores associated to the learning, students sometimes are motivated by keeping score, right? And even the learning, the earning of badges. Leaderboards are often used in some of the technology tools that we use to engage our students. Creating that healthy competition and any opportunities that we can get our students to collaborate with one another is going to be a win. So again, just those quick hits on the elements of gamification, but then really thinking about during this time, the few weeks we've got left remaining, you know, how are we taking the opportunity to review all of these examples incorporate elements of gamification, and the PDF that you are going to get, these are going to be linked. They are linked to resources, templates, and models. They're also, even if it is not if it is a no tech or low tech situation, there are options for that as well. Dropping in some additional awesome links for ideas for gameplay. Go ahead and grab that again. Here we go. Playbright is a good platform for teachers to create and manage their own classroom game environment. For our music teachers, music is a fantastic motivator. Also, we've seen tools like Socrative and Quizzes and Kahoot. They've all modified their platforms to promote remote learning situations, but we can easily take all of these different games you see here and turn those into some fun opportunities to review, to connect learning, and sometimes simply to have fun. So you can see like the lip sync battle. Sometimes we need to take a break and do something a little silly. So interested in more on that, all of these resources and information can be found back in our Maintaining Motivation and Momentum session. So how are you guys doing? I know I'm going fast, but again, going through our top 10. Here's our next question. What element of learning can continue to foster relationships and build empathy? This is a pretty tough one. I hope you guys can get this. It's worth 1,000 points. That's right. It's going to be feedback. So feedback, we want to make connections by seeing faces we know, not just hearing a voice, using video, picking up the phone, any way that we can communicate, engage with our students, engage with their families. Consistency is important, especially in these remote learning times. So what can this look like? Feedback loops are so important, and how we give feedback and when we give feedback is important too. So synchronously, when you think about synchronous like we are right now, I can ask questions, you can give me answers, we're in real time. Those are fantastic opportunities to say, how are you? How is it going? Opportunities to connect with small groups and offer connections and the ability to be responsive. Asynchronous communication is great for short lessons with a clear, concise structure where you're giving instructions, maybe demonstrating something. You could do read alouds, you could share writing. Offers flexibility and the ability for students to rewatch, reread, or review for clarity. So again, we mentioned that feedback loop being so important in how we are having those interactions. Those interactions are both learner to learner and learner to content. We know that's where the content really lands. And then of course, that learner to instructor feedback. All of these are crucial to inform not only you where your students are, but that connection is going to help them not only stay motivated, but get clarity for understanding, information, and any opportunities that we can connect and collaborate are going to be so helpful. Again, going through this super fast, right, folks? This is our top 10. And if you want more information about this, where you can find a video of the session, where you can have access to slides with all the links that you could share and use, you're going to find that in these sessions, Fostering Engagement and Differentiation for All Learners. And those are all found at our remote learning site. Next trivia question. Meaningful feedback is crucial to create what important educational necessity? Worth 5,000 points. Is it A, motivation, B, mastery, or C, monitoring? When you're thinking about feedback and why it's so crucial, and I've already kind of said it, it is definitely going to help all of these things. But right now in our remote learning situations, we're seeing motivation really needs some care and some support right now. So when we're talking about motivation, when we're thinking about how we're motivating our students, you really are your student's champion. You're the champion for the parents out there who are trying to do their best, right? Your feedback is the most positive feedback that they may receive in a given day. That motivation is undeniable. And even when you think students may not be realizing it or they're not showing that they really want you to be chatting with them, they really, really do love it and they really care. They really, really do want to hear from you. So very briefly, we were thinking, what does this look like in action? when we are asking to create opportunities for motivation in our lessons, when we're thinking about social emotional learning in our lessons, we created a kind of a brainstorm of activities with resources and opportunities where you can pick and choose, for example, to help social awareness and relationships, creating 10-minute challenges or just lunch dates with students and families, creating a class music playlist with one another, going on virtual field trips to support self-awareness and self-management, opportunities for choice boards, glows and grows reflection charts, and even responsible decision making. We know healthy eating and sleeping is so important right now, so creating those challenges in your lessons or having virtual award ceremonies, because this is the time of year where we do a lot of those things in our physical school spaces. And it's really a great opportunity to promote and instill more motivation for our kids when they need it. So thinking about how we can do some of those things for our students, even in remote learning situations. And Shayla has dropped in not only SEL resources, but we have that link is to a deeper dive of all of this content, the links and more resources on how you can make those work for your lessons. And if you want more on that, and this one's really good, folks, maintaining motivation and momentum. Right now we need it. So you can go back and you can check that out in our past sessions. And number one for me of my top 5, worth 10,000 points. What is the most important focus of all educators right now and always? Paperwork, grades, or self-care? I'm hoping this one's really, really easy for you all, because definitely it is taking care of ourselves. You cannot fill the cup of others if you do not fill your own first. Or the example Shayla likes, when you're flying in the plane and you have to put that oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on the person sitting next to you. You have to take care of yourself. It's so important. And while we're throwing a lot of stuff out at you today, and you just have so much around you, we really want you to stop and think, what are the things that matter? What are the things that you can control? And then that's what you should focus on. You can't eat the whole elephant. You don't have to do all the things. You are doing a great job. We want you to believe that. We want you to take care of yourself. And finally, when you're thinking about how you're taking care of yourself, that includes how we eat, we sleep, are we moving, are we taking care of our mental care and our social care, taking time to take breaks from the work, to get away from the device of the machine, making sure that we're eating well, we're getting enough sleep. You know, how are you really doing? And I'm going to close out my top 10 by saying we were very surprised at how many teachers told us that they had not been asked in all of these weeks, how are you doing? So we do hope that you will let us know, how are you really doing? We want you to take care of yourself. That is really the most important. And if you do that and you model that, you're a model for your kids and those students. They need to see that too. So again, those were my top 5 really quick hits. And because this piece was so important, you're going to see that in every single one of our sessions right there. So 5 more to go, and I'm going to turn it over to Shayla, and Shayla's going to share her top 5.
Right. Thank you so much, Jackie. As you all can probably imagine, this was probably the most difficult webinar out of all of them for me to put together, because going back through all of the webinars and trying to decide what are my top 5 was really hard. But these are the ones that I have landed on. So again, just like Jackie, we're going to keep with the gaming theme. I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to ask. So your very first one is, brain science has taught us that the process of learning is linear, very complex, or learning is just so simple, anybody can do it. What do you think? All right, I see a lot of correct answers in the chat. The correct answer is B. Brain science is extremely complex. It is not something that comes easily to anybody. It is absolutely a process. It is something that we can learn, we can work through, but also recognizing that when we think about the process of learning, that it can appear to be very linear, but it's not. It is absolutely complex. And when we think about the process of learning, we know that there are multiple things that have to happen along the way. And if you were able to join us for this session, you may recall this is where we talked a lot about how difficult it can be and what little amount of information actually makes its way through to working memory the first time that a student receives instruction, and how imperative it is that they receive multiple opportunities to hear the information. We know repetition is really important. We know that there are a lot of different factors that play into helping our students not only take in new information, but have it work all the way through to long-term memory. And one of the resources that we shared that we have had access to and really been taking advantage of is this resource from Kansas. And they shared very early on kind of their research on what are the appropriate amounts of time to really expect students to be engaged online with remote learning. But what I really wanted to stress from this, and one of the key takeaways that our team had with this, is that, you know what, less time doesn't mean less learning. It's how you choose to really maximize and utilize that time. So again, making sure that you're using things like visuals, that you're chunking the information in your lessons, and that you're providing sufficient wait time. All those things that we know are critical when we are in our classrooms with our students still play into remote learning, just maybe in a shorter amount of time. But again, we know that when these things start to happen on a routine basis, they can absolutely have a tremendous impact, and they can help our students work through the learning curve. So as Jackie has been mentioning, if you're kind of going, ooh, brain science, that sounds kind of interesting, we would love for you to go back, explore the webinar, Differentiation for All Learners, Tips and Strategies. And this is where we dove a little bit deeper into that science. All right, so the next question, worth a whopping 11,000 points. Student feedback has the opportunity to be more impactful when it includes feedback from just the teacher, just the student, parent, and family members. What do you think? All right, I'm seeing a mix. This one was kind of a tricky one. The correct answer is all three. Again, we know more and more research is coming out around how important it is to not only for students to receive feedback from their teachers and for them to also have the opportunity to share feedback, but how critical, especially right now in remote learning, how we are able to gather that feedback from parent or family members who are really there sitting with their students each day and with their children, helping them through instruction, something that a lot of parents and family members never thought they would have to do. So their feedback is extremely important right now during this time. So one of the ways that we shared that you can really start to address and get information from family and parents, but also from students, is through single point rubrics. Single point rubrics are probably one of my favorite rubrics that exist. We know that there are a lot of different forms. Some take the form of numbers, some can be very complex. But as Jackie stressed earlier, right now in remote learning, it is all about keeping it simple. And single point rubrics allow for that. So you can see the basic anatomy of the single point rubric. It allows for the teacher, you really set up the criteria through the middle. You let them know what is your expectation for them to demonstrate mastery. But then to the left, there's space for all three critical stakeholders to provide information on what are things that they did really well, but things that maybe they need still to work on. But then to the far right, they have the opportunity to really celebrate things that maybe they did a little extra effort. Again, those things that right now you don't visually get to see every day, this is an opportunity for you to get feedback from students and family members on what they're seeing and what they're celebrating. If you are not familiar with single point rubrics, there is a link to the Cult of Pedagogy, which is Jennifer Gonzalez. She's really the pioneer and the thought leader behind single point rubrics, and you can check a bunch of hers out. The next screen just shares a couple of other structures that we've seen with single point rubrics. We've seen teachers be really creative. Again, that 3-column approach, but in this one, they're focusing more on grows and glows. So again, utilizing language that your students may already be familiar with, things that you already already say to them on a daily basis, feel free to incorporate them into the rubric. But again, I've been using these rubrics with my own daughters at home who are in elementary school, and it's also allowed us to sit down and constructively talk about their work and it not feel like a battle of, well, that's not how my teacher told me to do it, or that's not right. It really has allowed us to have a very fluid, open conversation about their learning during remote learning. All right, so again, if you are interested in learning more about feedback, we talked about several different things in this webinar other than single point rubrics, but they were kind of like the highlight. So if you're interested in learning more, head back to one of our webinars. All right, next question. When a student develops intrinsic motivation, they tend to be more focused on grades, awards, or personal growth. Yes, I see a lot of correct answers coming in. The correct answer is C, personal growth. One of the things that we had an opportunity to talk about in our last webinar when we focused on maintaining motivation is the difference between extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. And we really spent a lot of time focusing on the idea of intrinsic motivation, something that a lot of our students may or may not have had a lot of exposure to in the traditional classroom setting. Oftentimes they are more exposed to extrinsic motivation, things like receiving grades, grade promotion. This time of year, they're getting their awards and their certificates. But we know that all of that has been removed, and some of them may really be struggling with regaining their momentum and finding that motivation. So that's where helping your students develop a sense of intrinsic motivation can be really powerful. And we also shared that some of you may have heard this term grit by Angela Duckworth. It is her work around this idea of intrinsic motivation and really helping our students find a passion for why it is that they're doing what they do, not just living in the moment of that reward, but really thinking longer term. What could this experience mean? What could learning mean for them as they look to the future? So again, one of the things that we tried to do to help you think through, okay, what are things you can be doing with your students, either asynchronously or synchronous, whether you're teaching live or doing recordings, was these are a couple of things that you might choose to introduce. This is just a small sampling. There are several more ideas that are provided in the webinar, but my two favorites. The first one is 2 lines. So when you start a lesson with your students, asking them, say, kind of explain to them, all right, I'm drawing a virtual line. I'm putting a line in front of me. And I want you right now to decide which line are you going to stand in for the next 20, 30 minutes, however long your lesson is. Are you going to be in the line where you are ready to learn? We are focused. We are going to do this. Or are you in the line where you're already making that decision? I think I might tune out. I'm going to not pay attention. I'm going to daze out the window. Again, giving them that recognition and that opportunity to really decide for themselves what they want that experience to be. And the second one, questions with a scale. This is a great one to ask at the end of a lesson. Again, asking your students on a scale of 1 to 10. Again, you can have this written, you could have visuals, you could have emojis to help your non-readers or your younger students to be able to react, but to ask them how likely are they to do what you've just asked them to do, or to continue working and making progress towards their own learning. Whatever it might be, you know your students best, but asking them that pivotal question and then asking them, they don't all have to provide a response if they're not comfortable, but they could even just text you or send you a message privately. Where are they? Are they on board with moving forward? And again, these are all things that can help them start to reflect internally and start to recognize that learning is really about intrinsic motivation and not about the external rewards that they may receive. All right, again, if you're interested in diving in more to this topic, this is the webinar where we really went deep with this, and it was maintaining motivation and momentum. So our next question, I'm counting down, this one's worth 12,000 points. When designing differentiated instruction, it is important to consider higher order thinking skills and what might it be? Yes, if you chose C, depth of understanding, you are correct. Give yourself a big pat on the back. In this particular webinar, when we really decided to address differentiation, we kind of went back into the archives a little bit. And we started by kind of revisiting the work of a good old friend, a lot of you know him, Benjamin Bloom, and the work that he introduced to the world of education in 1956 with his taxonomy. And if you've studied Bloom's taxonomy or you're somewhat familiar, you know that his focus is all around how are we encouraging higher order thinking skills? How are we making sure that throughout a lesson, throughout a unit, throughout a year, that students are being challenged to move up in how they are thinking about the content and how they are applying the content. But one of the other things that we introduced in that session to some of you was the work of Dr. Norman Webb. He really hit the education scene in 1997 with his depth of knowledge wheel. And I personally have really utilized this in a lot of professional learning sessions that I've done with teachers to help us transition from not just thinking about what we want the students to do, but how we actually want them to demonstrate the results of their learning. And if you look at the information from Bloom and you look at the information from Dr. Norman Webb, you start to see the parallels between the two. They really work in partnership with one another. Bloom's taxonomy is all about how you're going to identify and write your objectives. What is it that you hope the outcome is going to be as a result of that learning? But then Bloom's depth of knowledge wheel, the use of his verbs, really allow us to start to think about the mental processing that has to occur and what the specific task is going to be that allows the students to adequately demonstrate their understanding at that higher order thinking level. So again, I know that was a whirlwind. We spent a lot more time diving into it in the session, but one of the things that we did provide in the session were these great graphs. And what we tried to do, similar to what Jackie shared earlier with the lesson design, kind of flow and sequence, we tried to do the same with combining Bloom's higher order thinking skills and Webb's depth of knowledge wheel. So you'll see, again, I just chose level 3 and 4 of Bloom's. We provide all of them in the resource document that Jackie's dropping into the chat. And if not, it'll also be on the slides. But this is to help you start to think about, okay, I'm going to write my objectives, thinking about the verbs of Bloom's taxonomy, making sure that I'm providing students choice and opportunity. But then when I actually ask them what the task is going to be that I want them to complete, I'm going to shift over further to the right and take advantage of the depth of knowledge sentence stems, which are provided. Again, this is only a sampling of the verbs and the sentence stems that are provided. We do give you those resources, but this was just to help you start to think about, as you are designing remote learning, are you providing differentiation for your students? And are you potentially challenging them in a way that you may not think that they're ready for, but that they may be sitting at home going, yes, I'm so excited to get a chance to do this. So again, placing it out there as choice, but giving your students that opportunity to really thrive during remote learning. So again, if this is something of interest, I see some people putting out there, love it, loving this session. Thank you so much. If you want to dive into deeper to some of this content, here are the links again to those webinars. And again, a lot of this information, you'll see it flows throughout all of them, but these are the ones where we specifically took a deeper dive into that content and those resources. All right, so my final question, my number one, this one is worth a kabillion points. It is to avoid remote learning burnout. Every 20 to 25 minutes, you should absolutely grade papers, answer as many emails as possible, or take a brain break for yourself. And if you answered C, you are 100% correct. As Jackie mentioned, your own self-care is imperative to your students' ongoing success. If you burn out, they will hear it in your voice. They will see it in your face when you're doing Zoom sessions. We know students are extremely perceptive to things like that. So again, your capacity to keep yourself also rejuvenated is really important. And part of that is taking breaks. And as I shared in the webinar on this particular topic, it is super important to set timers for yourself. I have a timer set on my own phone. It's probably going to go off any minute because I'm at about that 20 to 25 minute mark. Where I have to sometimes force myself to walk away from my computer because I think, oh, I'm in such a mode of thinking. I'm doing oh, this is so good. I'm in a rhythm. But when I do take the time to walk away for just even a couple of seconds to maybe do a lap through the kitchen and the den and I come back, I actually find that I kind of take on a different lens and a new perspective with what I'm looking at. I haven't lost anything that I was thinking about, but I kind of come back to it with a fresh set of eyes, which can really make a big difference when we are thinking about burnout and maintaining motivation. So again, we talk about brain breaks and we model brain breaks throughout all of our webinars. So if you're interested to see like where we insert them and how we introduce them, you will see them woven in between the sessions. We always try to practice what we teach. So at this point, that wraps up our top 10. We're going to give you just a couple of seconds to add up your scores. Hopefully you all jammed it out, did fantastic. And you should celebrate yourselves, your willingness to be on this webinar, but also how well you guys responded to the question. Again, if there were any that you may have missed, head back to one of our prior webinars and jump into the learning. So again, as I mentioned, my personal timer is also about to go off. So we are going to give you a 20-second brain break. Again, one of the things that we stress is it's only 20 seconds. So don't leave the webinar. Just take a minute to stretch, reflect, move around a little bit, and we will be right back with you in 20 seconds.
Get ready to the countdown.
All right, welcome back. For the last portion of the webinar, Jackie and I thought it would be really important to take some time to talk about this idea of the art of reflection. She and I both have found through this entire experience, our capacity to periodically sit down and really reflect on where we started in this process, where we are now, and where we hope to move forward has really helped us to stay motivated, but it's also been a sense of self-care. It's allowed us to really process not only our thoughts, but also our emotions, our feelings, all the things that had come into play during this time. She and I both have young children, and so we're like a lot of you, we're managing our own families while also managing work. So we wanted to share a couple of things that we have learned about the art of reflection in hopes that if you are not already taking time to reflect, you might stop and take a couple of minutes to start doing it now, because we know how imperative that can be. So we ask you this big question: how are you reflecting on your remote learning experience? Not that of your family, not that of your students, on you. Again, we're bringing it back and circling back around to you. How are you reflecting on your remote learning experience? So as I started to think about this idea of reflection, and I started to go out and do a lot of research on, what does research and scientists tell us about the power of reflection? I started thinking about the concept of timeout. This is a very common concept that a lot of teachers use. It can take lots of different forms of how we might instruct our students to head to timeout. But when you stop and think about the concept of timeout, really the goal is to give a student the opportunity to go and sit quietly for a few minutes, to just calm themselves down, whatever it might have been that happened, and to give them an opportunity to reflect on their actions. Well, as I was diving into the research, I came across this great article that talked about the impacts of timeout for adults. And it actually suggests that grown-ups to take routine timeouts of their own. Again, not as a punishment, but in order to improve their job performance. And if you read the article, it talks about all these different tests that they ran on various groups of adults. They had control groups and ones that they gave very intentional timeouts for. And for the groups that received very intentional routine timeouts, they found that they were more effective in the work that they did moving forward, because they had an opportunity to stop and think about what went really well and what would I do differently the next time. Something that we may not always take that very intentional time to stop and reflect and think about. So what we thought we would do today is to actually put all of you in time out. So for the next 2 minutes, I know it seems like a lot of time, but I promise it's going to go quickly. For the next 2 minutes, we are going to ask you to sit quietly, relax and take some deep breaths, and just reflect on your remote learning experience. If it helps, you might consider creating an I notice, I wonder T-chart. So on the left-hand side, you might jot down things that you've noticed about yourself, about this experience of being in remote learning and having to teach remotely. But then on the other side of the column, you might say, I wonder about things moving forward. It could be about this afternoon, tomorrow, it could be returning to school in the fall, but just taking a couple of minutes to reflect and think about your experience. So I'm gonna have Jackie start the timer and we will be back with you in 2 minutes. All right. Oh, sorry, I chose the wrong alarm. Sorry about that. So hopefully, and I saw some of you posting in the chat that you just appreciated that 2 minutes. I would encourage you to put on your calendar every day, if not every couple of days, block off a chunk of time that is your personal reflection time. Be able to put things out there of I notice, I wonder. You can do it in a lot of different ways. But Jackie and I also selfishly wanted to talk about this particular topic because we also want to encourage you to consider sharing your reflections. We have been doing a ton of research since remote learning started, and we are starting to see some articles and blogs and publications come out about key learnings and reflections that people have on remote learning, but we're not seeing many of those coming from you as educators, the ones in the field, the ones living and breathing it every day. So we wanted to take some time to talk to you a little bit about how you might consider sharing your reflections, helping future educators, students, helping us now learn from this experience and continue to grow academically and to be able to support our students. So we put together this continuum, and we're going to talk briefly about how you can really decide for yourself your comfort level for sharing. Your comfort level might be just keeping it to myself, and I am just going to focus internally on myself and my own professional growth, which is fantastic. You might merge a little bit further over to the middle of, I think I'm going to share it with my close friends and colleagues, keep it within my social network, but I'm going to start sharing some of my thoughts and ideas. And then some of you may feel very comfortable as you progress in your reflections to saying, I'm going to share it with the world. I want people to be able to learn from what I have learned. And it may impact one teacher out there, or it might impact millions of teachers that are out there. You never know what the trickle effect can be. So to help you think about how you might start sharing, if you choose to keep it just within yourself, you might consider journaling. We've put a couple of different links, which again will be provided at the end with the links to the slides, but you might decide just to go old school handwritten. Grab a notebook and just start jotting down your ideas. You might choose to do it digitally in a Google Doc or a Word doc. Some people have really found that they enjoy the power of video. So set up your own private Flipgrid, and every couple of days, open it up and do your own personal recording. I think of the show Survivor, how they go into the confession box and they just kind of talk to the camera. So take advantage of that. But we'll also provide you with some great apps that I found. It's the top 8 apps for reflecting for 2020. They are free, and it's just another great way for you to be able to stop and reflect when you feel comfortable. If you are willing to transition into sharing with your direct connections, your network of friends and colleagues, you might consider posting a couple things on Twitter or Facebook, those spaces where you get to kind of monitor and regulate who has access to that content. You might also set up a private YouTube channel. I have a private YouTube channel, and it's where when I make different videos or I have videos of me sharing things during remote learning, I share it, but only those people that I give access to it can be able to go out and view it. And if you are really anxious and starting to think about, I might want to put it out there to the world, you might think about different forms of publications. Blogs can be a first one. Blogs are not intensive. We're not talking great website design. We're not talking editing, visual effects, anything like that. It is simply writing your thoughts and ideas and putting them out there on the web. So we've given you links to how to get started, things to think about. Podcasting, that is something that I know Jackie on our team, she does quite a bit with. She's fantastic with. And again, that's just kind of you talking. You could have guests come on, or you can just share your ideas verbally. Again, creating a public YouTube site, or sending your ideas and your publications, the things that you've written, to some of the scholastic resources that are out there, like Edutopia and EdWeek. But also us at the Friday Institute, we love to be able to share things that teachers have written. So also feel free to reach out to me or Jackie if you have something that you want to put out there. And if it's something that we can post on our website, we absolutely will. We have space for that, or we can help direct you to a great resource that would really take advantage of it. So again, we hope that you will consider taking your reflections to the next level, and really thinking about how you can share and learn from those. So at this point, I'm going to shift it back over to Jackie. She's going to bring us in to the end and share some last minute thoughts and ideas.
Awesome. So yeah, we just wanted to kind of take a moment to bring it all together. We know we threw a lot at you during this time. And we just want to say, you may not be thinking it or feeling it, but you are history. This is not the first event in our history to disrupt education, and it certainly won't be the last. And the lessons for handling these disruptions lie within history, and they're training us, right, to be to continue to be educational leaders. And so we have been here before, but we could say that hold on just a second. And but we know that school closures, this pandemic, this definitely lead to some new factors. History's told us that, when these things happen, in fact, in North Carolina in the last 3 years, we've had multiple closings due to weather and illness. There's just nothing been like this before. So we know we have more data on our students than ever before. We see this academic impact at this time on our students and on you, and the steps taken to really make it right and to be connected like never before, thanks to all of this technology. But we have seen that the public may not perceive everything that's happening behind this social distancing, right? This physical distancing we've got going on. But you are making it work across North Carolina, across our nation. You've done phenomenal things. Buses delivering lunches and collecting assignments. We're connecting with students and their families now more than ever. We're tapping into social emotional learning, and that's paramount in education anyway, but we know right now this is what's helping to support, nurture, and grow us as educators and our kids. And educators are getting, more professional development now than you probably have had all year long in the last 2 months, right? So you are history. And I wonder, what will you take away from this experience to make tomorrow even better, to bring, for lack of a better word, some, this potential out of a pandemic, so to speak? And even if we're only able to teach half of what we're normally taught during this fourth quarter, it's half more than we didn't, if we didn't do anything, right? So we have to do everything we can to just keep learning and going during this crisis, and considering, this crisis will pass. But as we do that, some things to remember. First, look for what is working for you and what you feel may be lacking. This is up to you, right? Don't become addicted to fixing anything. So celebrate what you're doing well. Identify those strengths, use them to bolster where you want to grow. Be honest with yourself, but not overly critical, okay? You are doing amazing, amazing things. There's potential in building our awesomeness. It's really hard for us to see that sometimes because we're so mired in caring about our kids, worrying about the next day, worrying if we're doing enough. You are. So reflect, iterate, and then think about where you want to improve and what's going to work best for you. And finally, surround yourself with enthusiasm and awesome. The more potential you see around you, the more you'll observe, analyze, and you're going to design things to fit those ideas and needs. Start small, but consider what's more important to you or most important to you, what matters most, and decide that that's what you're going to focus on. Remember, you just changed 200 plus years of education in 2 months. It's not perfect. We didn't ask for this. You rose to the occasion and you went above and beyond. So we're going to, with our time, just leave you with this thought. Think about what elements are best practices from your learning, from this experience, remote learning, from working from your homes, and how you're connecting with students and their families. And just think about what you want to implement and use moving forward when you are back in the classroom. And it is Teacher Appreciation Week. We just want to say thank you. And it should be Teacher Appreciation Month. It should be Teacher Appreciation Year, Teacher Appreciation Decade. So thank you all so much for everything that you're doing. Keep going. We're not done yet, but again, hang in there. We're in this together. So as we're wrapping up, we mentioned many, many times to you that all of this information that we threw at you can be found in a deeper dive with more resources and things to support you on our go.ncsu.edu remote learning support site. At this time, we're going to ask, thank you so much for giving us some love in the chat. We appreciate you so much, and thank you for appreciating us. But we're going to drop in survey links and the link to the PDF in the chat window at this time, and we don't want it to get lost in the chat. So we've already copied it a few times, but you've probably missed it, because thank you so much for sharing the love. But here we go again. I've just dropped it in. You can find the link to the feedback form. Again, we have over 200 people trying to access that feedback link. So give it a moment, it's going to work. And then also you'll see the PDF of slides. And in that PDF of slides has all the links that you need. So again, you'll see here, if you want to click on any of the content from the remote learning support sessions that been taking place. You can find recordings and videos of all of the sessions, not only this one, remote learning for elementary students. And yes, this was geared toward elementary, but really applicable to all grade levels and disciplines. You can find all kinds of information, and we do want to highlight some sessions on social emotional learning as well. To find and access those, when you go to that site, click on the name of the session, and it's going to open up for you not only the video that you can watch, so you click on this icon and you're going to get access to the PDF of all the slides and all the links. So again, I'm going to drop that our feedback link and the link to all the PDF slides. And if you want to send somebody our way, we're going to do this session one more time. We're going to be doing that on May 12th at 9 a.m. And you're going to find everything that you need, again, at that goncsu.edu remote learning link. So on behalf of Shayla and myself, thank you all so much for joining us today. We're going to hang out and support and help you. But again, this slide right here, snap a photo if you need to. This has all the links. If the feedback link or the PDF link are not working, I'm going to drop in the really long versions of them. So again, give us a moment in the chat and we'll drop those in. Those may work better for you. And we also recommend that you copy and paste this link and give it a moment. We've got, 300 people all on that form at the same time. So once you complete the feedback link, you are going to be sharing your email address, and within 1 week's time, we're doing a great job, I have to say, of getting all of those certificates of participation out. We have multiple sessions each week, each with over 400 folks, sometimes at a time. So you will be getting that in your email. If you have any questions, please let us know in the chat. We want to make sure that you have everything that you need. And on behalf of Shayla and myself and the Friday Institute and the NC Department of Education, thank you so much for joining us. We want to make sure that we are able to help you out in any way that we can. To answer your question, Ambrosia, our next session is going to be on May 12th at 9 a.m. Registration is open on our goncsu.edu remote learning link. So you can register for that now. Which do you click for this certificate? You're going to want to click on the feedback form. I'll drop that again into the chat for anyone that needs it. I know that people do have a little bit of struggle initially getting that link to open when so many people are on that link at the same time. So you may want to give it a moment. You'll also notice Shayla and myself, we have our email addresses on your screen. So if you need to contact us, please feel free to do so. I'm just hanging out to make sure everyone has what they need. And Shayla, I don't think I forgot anything. So
No, you did a great job. Thank you, everybody. I was sitting out here monitoring the chat and adding some links. So